Hello and welcome to Google Digital Garage. Thank you so much for joining us this morning as we are here to talk about safety first, protecting yourself online in partnership with Which. My name is Anthea and I'm a trainer for Google's free skills training program, Google Digital Garage. And I'm joined today by the lovely Rushane, who is going to be our moderator for today's session. Now, Rushane will be in the chat in YouTube with you. So if you have any questions or any comments, feel free to drop them into the chat. Keep engaged, keep asking the questions, and she'll respond to as many of those as possible as we go through. And we'll also have an opportunity to pause for questions as well. Now, before we dive into learning how to protect yourself online, I want to call out a few things that might help us today in today's session. If you do have any trouble at any point viewing the webinar, please do refresh your page. If that doesn't seem to work, then try leaving and coming back using the exact same link as you had before, and that generally tends to solve most of the problems. If you would like to join the instant chat today, as I mentioned, you can drop your comments and your queries and your questions and speak to Rushane during today's session. You will need a YouTube account. You can log in if you already have a YouTube account, but if you don't, it's very easy. Click the button that's in the chat box right now, set up your account, and in a matter of moments, you'll be back ready to engage and interact with us today. We will be pausing throughout today's session. There's a few stopping points where you'd have the opportunity to ask some additional questions. So drop your questions as soon as they come to mind, rather than waiting for the pauses, and Rushane will collate those and I'll answer some of those live. For any questions that Rushane knows the answer to and is able to just get that response straight to you, she'll put there. But for anything that might be more useful for the wider audience to hear, I'll be covering those questions during the pauses. We are running this session virtual and other virtual training as part of a broader offering of courses. So if you'd like to check out our schedule, please do look on the website and a link will be dropped into the chat for you so that you can see what other sessions that we've got running. And we do such a broad variety. It ranges from digital marketing strategy, building a cover letter and a CV, to writing for social media or creating YouTube videos. So wherever you are in your life, whatever it is that you are trying to achieve or what you might want to know, I'm sure we'll have a webinar for you. I believe that is everything that we need to do in terms of housekeeping. So let's get started. We're going to look at safety first, protect yourself online in partnership with Which. Do let us know in the chat also where you're dialing in from, and welcome to everybody who has joined the session so far. Now, Which exists to make you as powerful as the organizations that you deal with in your daily life. So the idea of collecting reviews and getting understandings about other people's experience will also help you to make different decisions as you move through. Google's deep understanding of technology, plus Which is expertise and focus on making things easy for consumers to understand, has made these two organizations natural partners to create and deliver this course for you today. Now, as the largest independent consumer organization in the UK, Which has a long history of providing help and advice on issues that matter to most people. And today we're going to educate you about web safety so that you can feel confident about going online and also staying safe and secure. Today's session will be broken down into 3 parts, and ultimately by the end of today's session, you'll be aware of the most common online threats. You'll know how that your devices are susceptible to attackers. You'll be able to spot some of the common signs in a potential scam email. Feel empowered with steps to recover from mistaken clicks in fraudulent emails. Understand how to make strong passwords that are easy to remember. And most importantly, feel confident that you can go online and be safe. So let us know in the chat, where are you logging in from today? Drop your location. You can also let us know what it is you do and maybe, why you decided to join today's session. It's always useful to hear why people want to learn more about being safe online. Now, we're based in England. The power of the internet is that we can have people from multiple cities across the world. And so we use internet, we use these online platforms in order to connect people and learn from each other and build relationships. And that is really the most important aspect of this, and being able to access products and services that will improve our daily quality of life. Now, without the internet, it's going to be a lot more difficult to have that ability to connect with people across the world. So there are so many benefits to being online. However, we do also need to be mindful that not everybody's intention for using the internet is going to be positive. And, some digital tools have the power of uniting individuals, creating an inclusive and accessible environment, fostering those support networks, even when we can't spend time physically. But there are also others who want to utilize the vulnerability of people online to benefit them in a somewhat negative way. So looking at some of these stats then, there are 132 billion pounds that was stolen by hackers. Can you just imagine that figure? 132 billion pounds of people's money that were stolen through the use of hacking. During COVID, there were 18 million scam emails that were blocked by Google every single day. And then 700 or more fake websites that mimic, subscription sites such as Netflix and Disney since the 6th of April. Now, aside from the money and aside from the volume of things that were sent out, for me, the thing that I just can't really fully understand is people are spending time in order to send 18 million emails a day. People are spending time to create 700, fake websites. There are people who are investing their time specifically to steal from others. And, not everybody, as I mentioned, has, good intentions. But so it's important to be aware that not everybody's using the internet in the exact same way that we are. And the more mindful that we can be of these, the more that we can protect ourselves. Now, Ibnan is saying that, and hello, Ibnan, welcome from Bangladesh. A student looking forward to learn new things and check if the internet is the right way to go, or be aware of your usage. Ibnan, again, welcome, but you are definitely in the right place. We will be talking about using the internet the right way because we don't want to scare people off. It has so many benefits. And so let's dive into some of that now. There are some common misconceptions about the internet. So drop in the chat, what of the ones that you see on the screen, what are some of the common misconceptions that you may have had in terms of going online or using technology? There are a lot of people who could be afraid to go online because it's new, especially when we do a lot of work with older people and they're not used to having so much technology. And so there's a lot of fear that sits behind that. So some of the misconceptions that are there is that it's only going to be the big businesses that are going to be attacked. That's just not true. According to the Institute of Directors, there are 5.4 small businesses that are collectively attacked more than 7 million times a year. That's more attacks than there are businesses. And this is great timing. So Ibnam is saying your misconception was, I don't have anything worth stealing. And we have no idea how valuable our information is. Your identity alone is worth more money, according to CIFAS in 2017, where there were record levels of identity fraud. When somebody has your identity, it doesn't mean that you have anything worth stealing in terms of maybe your possessions or your finances, but your identity is priceless. They can use it to set up credit. They can use it to purchase things. They can use it to improve credit ratings, buy a house, get a mortgage. There are so many things that it can be used for. So it's not just the things that you possess. Your identity in itself is valuable. Public Wi-Fi isn't a safe space. It really isn't. We believe it's safe because we've got access to it, and especially if it's password protected, that is a bonus, but it's not enough. You know, the connection has a password, may force you to get a code to enter it, but we don't know what information is being collected through the public Wi-Fi. It could be that you think that smartphone isn't vulnerable to cybercrime, and again, that's incorrect. All smartphones can be vulnerable. You know, iOS, Apple devices are thought to be more secure because it has a closed ecosystem, but you still need to be careful. You still need to be careful about how you use your phone. Opening spam can give you a virus. Most email service providers do a good job of filtering unwanted messages into spam folders. Sometimes they can occasionally slip into your inbox. And if that does happen, the best course of action is to just delete it and remove the message. It's highly unlikely that opening the message itself will install a virus. However, if you open an attachment or click on a link, that is more likely to be the case. And then lastly, devices can't get viruses. Again, that's untrue. Devices, tablets, iPads, anything can get what we call malware, which is like malicious software, either from installing an app, maybe something that's untrusted, so not from an app store, you got it from somewhere else, or maybe you've gone to a particular website that's been infected. And so there are many misconceptions about, you know, cyberspace, internet, or going online. So the more we can be aware of these things, the better it equips us in order to make the right decisions to keep us safe online. So we're going to pause now for questions. Also just want to welcome Carl joining from Johannesburg. A question we've got here is there any way we can use public Wi-Fi such as airport Wi-Fi safely? Great question. And I think going back to what I mentioned before is no public Wi-Fi or connection is going to be 100% safe. Because of that, if you are more mindful about what you do when you are on a public network, that can offer you more protection. For example, when I use public Wi-Fi, I never do any banking. I don't go onto my bank accounts. I don't look at my banking apps. I don't check credit card statements. I don't do anything banking related. If I need to use any of those apps, I use my own connection. Because again, using a public Wi-Fi, you don't know what information is being collected. So once you make small, decisions like that when I'm on a public, connection, I'm not going to do anything that's too personal or contains too much information that could be stolen, that better equips you for being able to use it in a much more safe way. Okay, so let's move on. What are the different ways that you can be safer online? And so this section is going to offer you some practical tips that you can start using now in order to keep yourself safe. Now, first thing is you can protect your devices. So, as I mentioned, your devices can be just as vulnerable as having a PC or a laptop. Watch out for public Wi-Fi. We had that question just before this section started. So using public Wi-Fi can make you more vulnerable to attackers. So again, just think about what you're using when you're on public Wi-Fi. Keep safe while you're transacting online. Again, do you really need to make that purchase in a public space? If not, don't. Wait till you're in a more secure location and then exchange, your information. Start looking at your security and privacy settings for social media and all platforms regularly. So every time you open download a new app, think about what are the settings and the privacy that's there. What information are they collecting? And one good thing about security settings is when you look at things like cookies, most people get really annoyed when a screen pops up when they've just gone to a website. And so what they do is they just quickly click the blue button, the red button, the button that seems most prominent. But what that does is it accepts all cookies. And unless you know what cookies are in there, you don't know what information you've just given them permission to access. So even in terms of security, you'll have your settings in the background that don't allow specific pop-ups or to block certain sites. But you also need to be mindful that when you are posed with the cookie option, that you go and check and you either reject all, or you go and manage your cookies and ensure that everything that doesn't need to be on is off. And then lastly, choose strong passwords that add extra layers of security in order to protect yourself. So if we're looking at protecting your devices, every device you own is a gateway to your private data. So again, what things are you keeping on your device, and are you putting passwords against them? So you'd be as careful with your wallet and your password as you would be with your device, if not more careful, because it includes your pictures, it includes your contacts, it includes a lot of personal information about you. And so somebody hacking into that can get a lot of information. So here are a few tips that you can protect your device. So one is, keeping your software up to date. So if there's any new threats, they will update the software, add patches and other security functions. So make sure you've downloaded your latest software. Use a screen lock. So access to your general device cannot happen unless a code has been entered. And if you want to really go deeper, you can ensure that any apps that utilize anything personal, such as gallery, the phone, your contacts, any messaging apps that you might have, any apps that access notes or personal things, that you code each of those ones separately. So even if someone managed to get into your device, trying to get detail or data from your storage and all of that would need a separate code, and try to make those ones different. And again, lastly, look at how you can lock down your phone if you lose it. Some have a find my device option. So again, if anything happens to it, you're able to find it. Watch out for public Wi-Fi spots. And I mentioned some of this already, but it can leave you open to potential security risks. And that's because you don't know how secure the network is, and you also don't know what they're collecting about you. So it's, again, good to be mindful about, do I really need to use the public Wi-Fi? A lot of us, depending on which country we're from and which country we are traveling to, we can use our phone, we can hotspot it, and we can have enough data to do what we need to do. So for the sense of ease and convenience, you may go onto Wi-Fi, but you probably don't need to. And if that gives you that extra level of protection, just use your current device and the plan that you've already got. Now, it's important to learn how to keep your devices protected. Online safety on the go is something that I'm going to play now to give you an idea about how you can have more online safety for mobile devices.
Very often, we access our email services or social network accounts on the go. On mobile devices, all services that you use are accessible through apps, and therefore only one tap away without having to log in every time. That's why it is important to learn how to keep these devices protected. Locking your device helps you in case you leave it behind, or if you're worried about someone else scrolling through your phone. Most mobile devices offer options to create a PIN or a pattern. If you prefer a PIN, it's a good idea not to use consecutive series such as 1, 2, 3, 4, or personal information such as your birthday or address. The same principle applies to patterns. Try not to use patterns that are easy to guess, like geometric figures. Some devices also give you the option to hide your pattern when you draw it, so that it becomes invisible. It's good to be cautious about the apps, games, and videos and attachments you download, because they could harm your devices and put your personal information at risk. Beware of anything that claims that your phone is infected or asks for your password or personal information. You could accidentally download unwanted or potentially harmful applications, or give someone you don't trust access to your account. To prevent this, a good rule of thumb is to always download apps from reputable sources, like the official App Store on your phone. It's also important to read the reviews and comments from other users and look for potential safety problems with the app. This can help you decide if it's secure to download the content. Once in a while, you might also receive notifications to download system updates on your mobile. It's important to keep all your devices up to date since new versions can help fix security problems identified in previous versions. Finally, always remember to be extra careful whenever you go online using a network you do not know or trust, such as when using free Wi-Fi at a local cafe, because it could be easily intercepted. When on public networks, avoid signing into your accounts or making purchases, since your passwords and financial information could be compromised. Now you know the importance of screen locks, safe downloads, system updates, and Wi-Fi networks. Decide what safety settings are right for you and set boundaries around how much information you share, when and where while using mobile devices.
So again, this video, just to recap on some of the, I suppose, key points from there, is that, locking your device can help you in case you leave it behind, or if you're worried about someone else seeing you scroll through your phone. Be careful about the email services or social network accounts that you use when you're on the go. Try to create a code, a PIN, or a pattern, and if it's possible, make that invisible so that people can't potentially figure out what you've done to get into your device. And so again, there are other things that you can do, such as biometrics like fingerprints or even facial recognition. Sometimes these can be helpful, but they're not always that safe. So again, just be mindful about, I suppose it's the balance between convenience and safety. Sometimes there are things that look like they're good for us because they're convenient, but they could potentially, cause problems in terms of our safety. So let us know in the chat, do you have a lock on your device? Do you have fingerprint? Do you use facial recognition? Let us know how you're currently securing your devices in the chat. So some of the common public Wi-Fi mistakes is, doing your online banking. I mentioned this before. And one of the problems with doing online banking or shopping using a public Wi-Fi is that the network is potentially unsecured and risky. You could be going to a website that's not secure. And because banks do use encryption to keep your details safe, some of the public Wi-Fi hotspots are encrypted, but most aren't. And so if the network isn't secure, it's not encrypted, there is an increased chance that a hacker will be able to eavesdrop on the data that is being transmitted and received through your device. And that could potentially record your login details or any sensitive information. So just consider how you can, use your home or your workplace Wi-Fi to do online banking, or as I mentioned, just use your normal data plan, as that is less likely to be hacked. You can also think about, where you do specific transactions, and just make sure that the bank address or the website that you're using starts with HTTPS. That S is the thing that helps to give you that peace of mind that this is has a degree of security around it. And again, like all things online, nothing is 100% risk-free, but it does give you a stronger sense of security. If you do end up going onto a page that just starts with HTTP in the midst of doing a financial transaction, I would definitely log out. Again, the idea of the S is for the security. So if you're now starting to think about exchanging personal or sensitive information and it doesn't have that security, you're putting yourself at unnecessary risk. Sometimes we can assume that Wi-Fi is going to be faster than 3G or even 4G. And public Wi-Fi, again, can be enticing. It promises speedier internet connections than your general phone, but it could be that you're in an area that accesses a weak connection. You could be so far away from a router, or the broadband might be slow. And so speed is also going to be a problem if lots of other people are using the network as well. So thinking, Ibn asked the question about the airport. And then also if you think about if you're in a hotel or you're in a shopping center, there's volumes of people who be accessing it. So again, you don't have to use it. Your phone's data connection could potentially offer faster speeds than your public Wi-Fi. So just think about, okay, if you travel, think about your lifestyle. You know, where do you go? Where do you need to use the internet? Would it be worthwhile you improving the speed of your phone so you don't have to use public Wi-Fi? You know, again, these are some other things to consider. Next is not securing your device. You know, any security weaknesses on your device is going to make it a lot more vulnerable. So thinking about having firewall switched on, you know, for Macs and Windows, it's vital that you have a good Windows security package installed. Because if you fail to apply the updates, then anytime there are any loopholes that have, you know, hackers, etc., have found, you're not getting the security that would have dealt with that. So just make it harder for people who are trying to access your personal information for them to do so. You know, by not taking on board these security things, you're essentially just giving them a free ride to your data and your identity. So just make sure your firewall settings are on, that you are using a private network wherever possible, and that you update any patches or software to your software on your Windows or Mac or whatever it is, to ensure that you have got the most up-to-date security possible. Again, sometimes it could be that you're doing too much on free Wi-Fi networks, and I've mentioned that. Yes, you've got speed. Yes, you've got an access, but do you need to do all of the things that you're doing? Anything that could potentially compromise your identity, it's not worth it. Just use your own data for that instead. And then lastly, installing software. Now, sometimes the issue is not the software that you're installing, but because you're on a public Wi-Fi, it can expose your computer to malware infections. We'll be talking about that shortly. So if you're carrying out regular PC updates, then maybe you're at less risk. But if it's a free hotspot that's been created by someone and you're jumping on because you need to do something, you don't know the intent of that connection. And so it could be a case of, oh, you need to install an update on this hotspot, not realizing that by saying yes to that, you're actually downloading a virus or some sort of malware that's now going to collect data from your machine. So just avoid installing or updating any software when you're using public Wi-Fi, and only use that when you are doing something in a private Wi-Fi or directly using your phone's data. Shopping safely online. Again, buying things online is really quick, it's really easy, and it gives you access to a large range of products and services. But because of the nature of shopping, it requires you to exchange your personal or financial data, and therefore those are things that are at risk of being stolen. Online shopping is big business, you know, so there are a few ways that you can stay safe when you're looking for your bargains. Make sure that the retailer is legitimate. And again, remember, we're doing this in partnership with Which. Go online, go and check Which. Has anyone said anything positive or negative about this potential retailer? Because if it's a brand that you've not heard of and you check for reviews, you find out that they're not someone to spend your money with or do business with, it then helps you to save yourself from potential issues later on down the line. Make sure that you're checking that the companies have a refund or return policy and also contact details. So if anything goes wrong, you can contact somebody, and try to use a credit card, PayPal, or maybe Klarna, something that offers consumer protection from fraud. So usually when you spend on your debit card, there is no protection. So if you use a credit card to make your payments, then you're offered that fraud protection. Be mindful that if you are spending on your credit card, you still need to pay that back. So it could be a case you make all of your purchases for that month on your credit card, and at the end of that month, you pay it all off from your bank account to ensure that you're not also accruing interest on that. If you are shopping from a mobile phone, again, you might find it safer to use the app that belongs to the retailer rather than trying to go online. And that's mostly because it's less likely that a hacker will focus their attention on an individual app. They're more likely to go for, web-based software. So let us know, what do you consider when you are deciding where to shop online? What influences, drop it in the chat. What influences your decisions to shop at one store over the other? How many of you are shopping online? Where do you shop? And how do you decide if it's safe? Drop that in the chat and let us know. To shop online securely, again, just there's a few simple rules. Use something that's familiar and it's been verified. Look for the padlock that exists in the top left of the search bar or the URL field, and also ensure that if you're doing anything for transactions, that the URL starts with HTTPS, because that means that it's secure. Check your privacy policy and contact details. Check the privacy policy and contact details. Make sure that there is a way for you to communicate with that organization if anything was to go wrong, and avoid storing your cards. I know it's easy. I know it makes so much, saves you so much time to be able to just store your payment details, but we don't know what they're doing with it. We don't know if that site potentially would get hacked, in which case your details are already on there. So just trying to go with more secure payment methods like PayPal, unless you are 100% sure that retailer or person. And please do avoid bank transfers. It's very difficult to come back if you are transferring to somebody's bank, especially if it's in a business capacity. Nobody should be asking you to send them a bank transfer. If it's for a business, you're purchasing a product or a service, definitely need to move from that. Okay, so to maintain your security settings, we're all familiar with passwords, but you have to think about how strong is your password. And also to admit that many of us use one password for multiple accounts. And so therefore, we're giving people the option that if they break into one, they could potentially break into all. Yes, it means it's a lot easier for us to remember that password. However, we are also making it easier that if somebody does manage to crack that password, that they get access to many more things that we really don't want them to have access to. Think about updating your privacy and security settings. So the more control that you have over what you allow in terms of security and privacy, the safer you're going to be. Make sure you check them periodically, especially when you do an update. Sometimes they add new settings, but you're not always made aware. So check every social media platform that you're on, your Google account, whatever email you're using, all of the things. Make sure that you are checking to make sure that those are aligned to what you're willing to share, and don't share anything you don't need to. In Google, you can run a privacy and security checkup to protect your account and also those connected devices. And there is a handy guide that you can use for managing Facebook data, which will drop in the chat. And again, that's by Which. So that gives you some insight into what you can do to keep yourself safe. Be careful with the apps that you choose to download and where you install them from. Always download an app from the official store. So whether it's Google Play for Android or it's Apple's App Store, avoid just downloading an app to your phone, especially from a website. You know, there are strict approval processes in place before an app can be listed. So the fact that there is an app that exists means that you can have an element of security, knowing that you're less likely to download a dangerous app because this one has been approved. Always look at the app reviews, always check the permissions on an app that it requires, and make sure it makes sense. Like, there are some apps that require access to your phone, to your contact list, to your location, to your gallery. And when you think about the nature of the app, it could be a game. They don't need any of those things. And so for me personally, if I'm going to use something for a specific reason, maybe I've downloaded a game and they want all of these other things, I'm less likely to continue with the installation. I'm likely to just uninstall it and just move on and find something else. So just make sure that you are checking those things and making sure that they make sense to what kind of app you've downloaded. And then also think about how you can strengthen your password. You know, think about how strong your password is and consider making your existing passwords a little stronger. So you can also use things like password managers. I think that was mentioned in the chat. You can use a password manager to store all of your passwords, and you can also use two-factor authentication. So when you think about strong passwords, one way that you can use it is to create a strong password with using 3 random words. We always suggest that you include numbers and symbols in your password, as that makes it much more complex. So select 3 random words. The example that we've got here is cat, stranger, blue. Then you've got your numbers and a symbol. If you are someone who generally likes to have the same password, okay, what you can do to create a variation is just rearrange it. So instead of cat, stranger, blue, you can do dog, stranger, green. So there's one consistent word in there, and then you're adjusting 2 of the others. Okay, so again, this makes it much harder to crack, as according to the National Cybersecurity Center. And, again, adding those numbers and the symbols, meets the requirements of most websites as well. Password software. So yes, there are password managers such as LastPass, Google Smart Lock. These are enabling you to create strong passwords and store them in an encrypted form. So they can even log you into sites when you need them to, and be set up to work across a variety of devices. So if you know that you use in your laptop, and you also use a tablet, and you also use a phone, you can keep logged in for all of those. For me personally, I like to stay logged out of things until I need them, and that just gives me that added security that I'm not just there and, the moment that my phone is unlocked, someone's going to get in there and access everything. So in addition to all of these things, you also have to do what feels right for you as well. Google Password Manager. You can generate a password and let Chrome create and remember strong passwords for you for your accounts. So if you're not using Google Password Manager, we'll drop a link into the chat for you. Please do go and get one set up. If you have a lot of passwords that you feel that you might need to remember and you're likely to forget, put them in there. And what that means is that you need one password now. So you need one password to access Google Password Manager. And then once you've gotten into there, it will then give you access to all of the other passwords as well. And remember that your passwords are stored securely, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Two-step verification. There is something at the moment where there are a number of sites that have to have two-step authentication, also known as two-factor authentication. And what that does is it adds another level to your security. So you sign in with something that you're already familiar with, such as a password, and then you have another thing to sign in based on where you are at that moment. So it could be you signed in via an email and they send a text message to your phone. They could send an email to that email address, and then you have to use that code to get into that second level. Now, the benefit of that is that even if a hacker managed to figure out what your email address and your password was, they may not have your phone. So when you then get a text message saying you need to put this code in, that also alerts you that somebody has tried to access your account. So Which have a lot of advice about setting that up. And so we'll put that link into the chat for you so you get a better understanding of the importance of two-factor verification. And then lastly, thinking about the installation and update of your software. So, it's important to protect the information on your phone or your tablet. Otherwise, a lost device could lead to identity fraud or financial loss. Now, imagine there are a lot of people now who are having their debit cards and their credit cards on their phone. So no longer are you just losing a device that has access to a contact list. You are now losing a phone that has access to your debit and credit cards, your contact lists, your email accounts, and other private information that could end up causing identity fraud or financial loss. So you only really need one program. And remember that none of those programs or devices are exempt. So every single program you have, every device you have, make sure that you've got something protecting it. And what I tend to do is buy the software that allows you to have multiple devices, so up to 5 devices. And I'll make sure that I've got my laptop, my work laptop, my phone, and my tablet all protected under the same antivirus. So which have tested out a multitude of antivirus software, both paid and free, and on the screen you'll see a list of what they recommend. So Bitdefender, AVG, and Avast. And then there's also, for paid, ESET, Bitdefender, as they've got an option for payment, and also Norton Antivirus as well by Symantec. So again, just think about, free doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Paid doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Personally, I'd rather invest in it because I know that by paying, I've probably got a lot better in terms of security. So that's a good thing. But just the key point here is to make sure that you do have antivirus software, you keep it up to date, and that you ensure that all of your devices are protected. Okay, so quick pause for question. We have one question here, which is, can Wi-Fi routers be hacked and hackers can steal personal data? Potentially. If the network isn't secure, it's at risk of anyone hacking into it. If at the time you are using that Wi-Fi and you are in a public, on a website and you're exchanging personal information, then yeah, there is a potential that could be hacked into. And that's why we're talking about how you can be mindful and saying, do you really need to do the thing that you're doing on a public Wi-Fi? Probably not. And then again, Carl was asking, does one need antivirus software? I'm told that Windows has inbuilt protection is more than enough. Part of this is peace of mind. I would recommend that you check to see what's included in your inbuilt protection, and then also pull up one of the antivirus software to see what features are also included. If you find that there is more protection in the antivirus software, if that works for you, then I would get that as well. If not, then you can leave it as is. Personally, I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I always have an extra antivirus software, even whatever application I'm using has that included as well. Okay, hope those were helpful. Let's move on and look at some of the common threats, and what you can do. So this is about looking at some of the practical tips that you can use to avoid these threats. So let us know in the chat, what does malware mean to you? Do you know what malware is? Have you come across it before? Have you been impacted by it? I mentioned malware earlier on, and yeah, it's malicious software, essentially. It is exactly what was asked in one of those questions. People intentionally want to try and steal personal data and harm your computer. It bewilders me as to why anyone would want to intentionally do that. But unfortunately, that's the world we live in. We have access to things and people want to use them, not always for positive purposes. And this is why we need to be mindful and protect ourselves. So the malware is a computer virus, a malicious software program that once it's been executed, it replicates itself by modifying other computer programs and inserting its own code. In that code, they can steal information from your computer, as much as even keystrokes. So when you think about safety and you entering your password onto all of these different sites, if you have malware in there, it can actually pick up the keystrokes, and that's how they can also learn what your passwords and things like that are. So you can get malware from opening an attachment. Again, if you don't trust the sender, you don't know who it is for sure, or you're not expecting an attachment, don't open it. And we'll go through some of this in a moment. Download software from malicious sites. Again, if you're not using anything protected, you could get malware from there. And also clicking on certain ads. It's called malvertising. The way that people are saying, oh, here is an advert, and you can get a really great thing for like next to nothing. Seems a bit suspect, but you're interested. So you click it. Next thing you know, you've got malware on your computer. So let's have a look at this and start to look at what do these look like in the real world. So as I mentioned, when you get emails coming through, look out for warning messages. Most email accounts actually do look at this stuff and they say, right, this is likely to be spam. So they put a notification at the top. If there is one, pay more attention to it. So even if you know the person, be wary, because I have had emails sent from people I know and the name appears there, but the email address is different. So again, don't just become familiar because you see the name of the person. Start to look in more detail. And if it's something that you're not expecting, it could be that their email account has been hacked. So again, some things they put in there is, they're promising must see, there's photos, there's videos, and all those things that don't tell you much, but they want you to click on a link. And so that's one way that the attachment scam takes place. Another one is pop-up. So you're in the middle of something pops up, it says there is an error or you need to access something. So click on OK. Whatever you do, do not click on OK. Try to either exit the screen completely. Don't click on the pop-up. If you can't close down that screen, use the X button to close the window, because by you clicking OK to clear the message could enact the malware. And so you really want to make sure that you protect yourself from that. And whatever you do, please do not call any of the numbers that are on the phone for support, because it's unlikely to be from Microsoft in this example, but it's probably scammers who are going to rob you of hundreds or thousands of pounds under false pretenses. So best thing to do is close it, ignore the pop-up, and periodically run a virus scan. Next is phishing and other scams. So again, these are attempts to trick you into giving out your personal information. A few years ago, there was this thing where people would get emailed saying, I'm stuck in a country, or there'd be a call and they'd be like, oh, I need to get money to get bail because I've been arrested for something. Then you send a whole bunch of money and it doesn't go anywhere to anyone. So the idea of these scams is to gain your trust so that you can hand over your money and also your personal details. Again, not a good idea. Banks will never ask you to reset your password online via an email, and do check the domain. So instead of HSBC, they might do HS_BC, because you can't buy the domain that's already legally registered to somebody else. So it's really essential that you look at this and say, am I expecting it? Do I know where it's come from and can it be verified? Or is it too good to be true? Personally, when I get a message, I just send a text to that person and I say, did you just send me this thing? And they will say yes or no. If it's a no, I let them know I've received it and that they might want to change their password. During COVID-19, there are a whole bunch of scamming emails that came telling people that they've been fined because they were not social distancing, or they were here, there, and everywhere. So think about things that are happening in the world, pandemics, other things, issues that are happening. People will try to use those things to get money from you. So again, just make sure that you are taking into consideration what that is. And looking at this, it says UK_gov. That's not a valid business here. So you can know that that's not legitimate. Emails, they'll say, we need your help, that you owe money. Maybe there's something wrong. Maybe you've run a prize, or here's a get rich quick scheme. Don't pay attention to it. Don't click the link. It would normally say click here. Just delete the email. And even though they sometimes do include links such as PayPal and try to copy the text, you'll always see by hovering over the link where it's going to. And if that's not a legitimate site, it's best to delete it. And if it's from a bank, something you can do instead is use the number that you know to call the bank and ask them if they've sent you an email. There's another one from HMRC. Again, don't click the link, delete the message and block the number. So you can start to get the picture. This is HMRC UK. Again, that doesn't exist. It's hmrc.gov.uk or .co.uk. So you really have to pay attention to who is sending it. What are they looking for? What links are showing on the page, and what are they asking you to do? And is this the usual method of communication that this particular organization would have? So again, here we've got two different examples of one that's legitimate and one that isn't. They both say that they're coming from Amazon. However, you'll find that the one on the right-hand side is not coming from an Amazon account. It's coming from cross one dot whatever. So again, sometimes we can be confused because it looks like it's legitimate, but we have to take that time to really look in a bit more detail. So again, the sender's email address is not right. They're trying to gain your trust. The order is being sent to somebody else, and they're asking you to tell them your Amazon password effectively. So again, If I got this and I thought this could be true, I log into my account in the normal way that I do and see if there are any notifications. If they're not, I know that this particular email is a scam and I won't click any links. Okay, so messaging apps. Again, there could be a message that you get saying, from WhatsApp or pop up saying, here is something that you can get. This one is trying to get you a deal from Sainsbury's and other established brands. And the idea is that they want you to click on it so that you can forward that farming scam, so they can essentially steal your data. So again, best thing to do is just close the app and then send a message to that person and let them know that it's a scam. You can, in WhatsApp, you can delete the message as well, but let anyone know, especially if it's in a group, not to click the link. And we do have a phishing quiz, which we do not have time for now, but we will invite you. We'll send the link. It's phishingquiz.withgoogle.com. We'll drop that into the chat. So for those of you who are asking those questions about how can I be sure that this is legitimate or it's a phishing scam, this quiz is really good for giving you 10 questions, 10 different scenarios, and you have to specify whether or not it's legitimate or a phishing scam. And that gives you a good sense. Whether you get it right or you get them all right or all wrong, it's just good to see examples of how people are trying to scam us, and that makes you more aware. And then lastly, social media scams. So again, here we're just looking at, very well crafted messages that appear genuine. They use official brand logos. They've got, terms and conditions, and they're asking you to click a link to buy something. And it's generally like a counterfeit product, or it could be a fraudulent website. It could be that someone's impersonating a friend or family, requesting money transfer, a fake promotional deal, it's a competition. All of these things are taking place every single day. And as much as we would hope that it doesn't happen to us, these are some ways that we can just be a bit more mindful and question things a little bit deeper to ensure that we are not being phished or scammed in any way. And, farming can be hard to spot because it might look like the real thing. However, in 2017 alone, there was a farming attack that actually targeted 50 banks and could have easily affected over 1,000 people. So again, this is the lengths people are going to for this. So you've got the fraud. It might look like it's real, a real Apple store, but it's not genuine. And on the right-hand side, the profile image is from a real account, but it might appear different if you clicked through to it. So again, let's not be too familiar online. Let's be a bit more cautious. And just make sure that you're just adding those extra checks to make sure that, you're not going to get caught up. Any questions that are coming through? I can't see any at the moment. Okay, so we're just going to get into the last one. How do you gain control if you've been scammed? Unfortunately, it does happen. And so let's look in these last few minutes, what level of risk. So if you think you're not sure if you've been scammed, let's work through the different levels. And there are quick ways that you can recover from this. So you're low risk if you've opened and read an email. Absolutely fine. The only thing it will do is mark it as read. That's not enough to install a virus or steal your personal details. There would be additional steps that you'd need to take in order for your data or your device to be in danger. And receiving a friend request on social media from someone that you don't recognize also won't harm you. So just be aware that you're at low risk. You're at medium risk if you've clicked a link that was sent to you via a scam email or a social media post, because we don't know where that could have taken you. It could install a virus onto your device. It could make your web browser display annoying pop-up messages that when you click them, install something into your device. So if you do click a link, the best advice is running a full antivirus scan just to catch anything and making sure that your antivirus is up to date. You're at high risk if you type your password or financial details into a scam site. You need to act fast, and we'll look at what you need to do at that point. So if you have been scammed, disconnect from the internet as soon as possible. The amount of time disconnected isn't relevant. What's important is that if your computer has been accessed, that you've now cut off the connection between your device and whoever is doing it. Run a full security scan and change all of your critical passwords, anything that relates to your personal data, such as banking, etc. And then just make sure that you have, changed all of those things, and that you're not just creating another variation, that you've completely changed all of your passwords again. There is a it's called the cyberhelpline.com, which will drop a link in the chat. And if you feel like you have been scammed, there is further support from them, and just be aware it's a voluntary service. Again, run your antivirus, and again, change your passwords. Contact your bank if you think that there is a chance you've handed over some personal bank details. Get your cards cancelled and get them replaced, and just giving them that heads up so that you can avoid any potential purchases that are made using your personal details. And they generally tend to reissue your cards with new numbers within a matter of days, just to help prevent fraud. And so again, these steps also apply if you think you've installed a virus from an attachment on your email or pop-up, not just specifically entered detail onto a scammer's website. So there is actionfraud.police.uk. I know some of you are not from the UK, but there will be the equivalent in your own country. So please do have a look and check. You will need to report the crime via Action Fraud or whichever the equivalent is, and make sure that they give you a crime reference number. And this will help you if you need to make a claim in the future with your bank with regards to any lost money that needs to be recovered. So it's really, really important that you do report cybercrime, because if you enter your details into an account and something happens, a virus has been installed, and you haven't told anybody, when it comes to all of the money that was spent during that period of time, it's going to be very difficult for you to recover it. Make sure that you ask the experts. We're here in partnership with Which. Go to Which, have a look, and look about, getting the reviews up front. And if you have been scammed, look at how you can get your money back after a scam, how you can report a scam, and also some more general advice. So you can go to computing.which.co.uk, and that should give you some additional information. Again, we'll post a link in the chat for you. And again, just remember to avoid, I just missed one. Ask experts at the same point to get that information, to get that additional support. So stay one step ahead and work on prevention rather than cure. And then again, if you have any online scams, COVID-19 is probably less of an issue at the moment, but just be wary that there are, especially whenever there is a new variant coming in, there generally tends to be more of these online scams. Okay, so are there any final questions before we wrap up today? It does not look like so. Okay, so we are good. So what are your next steps? Drop into the chat. Let us know, what is it that now that you've attended this session and you've reflected on, your own security, how you use the internet, what kind of sites that you're using, what devices you're using. Drop in the chat and let us know, what one thing are you going to do to make yourself more safe when you are online and protect yourself? Drop that in the chat and let us know. And as always, we thank you so much for participating with us today. Remember that we do have additional courses and webinars running, so please do feel free to go to the Google Digital Garage website and see what other subjects that we have available that you might find useful. There's going to be a lot of different topics, and you can check, and the schedule is updated regularly, so come back if you don't find what you're looking for immediately. What's really important to us is to give us feedback. How are these sessions going for you? Are they working? What other topics would you like? And you can do that by going to goo.gle/digital garage feedback and let us know how you found today's session. We really, really would appreciate that. And you can also email us at team@thedigitalgarage.com which is in the description below. But that again gives you an opportunity to ask any questions or also give us some feedback. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found the session valuable, and big thanks to Rashane, who has been really helpful in interacting with you all and answering questions and passing a few over to me as well to stop in the pauses. We thank you for coming, and we hope that using this knowledge, you won't keep it to yourself, but you'll also let others know how they can also protect themselves online. So from us, we bid you a good day, and we hope you have a lovely weekend and hope to see you again very soon. Goodbye.